Hello, good evening. Welcome to the ninth problem solving session for the course Municipal Solid Waste Management. In the last 8 weeks, we have started from the very basic of what is a solid waste, what are the classification for solid waste, what is municipal solid waste, what are its classification, and then we have discussed about what are the collection system in which we have discussed about primary collection system and the secondary collection system for the municipal solid waste, followed by few concepts on hall collection system and stationary collection system. And then we have solved few numericals based on these. And then we have discussed about transfer stations. So transfer station are locate are necessary in very large cities for a collection of the waste from a particular community or 2 to 3 sectors, and take the waste to that transfer station, and from that transfer station it is sent for further processing. And then we have discussed about what are the physical processing for the waste. Like we have discussed about recycling of various waste, like plastic waste, metal waste, in which we have discussed about ferrous and non-ferrous metals recycling. And finally we have shifted to chemical processing, in which we have discussed about how the new products are made from the already sorted and segregated waste. And we have discussed about incineration, gasification, and pyrolysis. So incineration is something in which complete combustion of something takes place in presence of excess air or oxygen. And then but there are some drawbacks of incineration, like there should be central facility for incineration, even though the final volume reduction is very high in incineration, like more than 90% of the waste is incinerated, only 10%, nearly 10% is left as ash that is to be handled. But during incineration, lot of harmful pollutants are emitted in the air, and so in this flue gas, proper treatment of the pollutants and removal of the pollutants are necessary. And then after proper treatment, this flue gas is discharged into air. And then we have discussed about gasification. So gasification is a thermochemical process which is done in limited supply of air or oxygen. Here, whatever stoichiometric requirement of oxygen is for complete combustion of any waste or any compound. In gasification, that much of air is not given. Rather, some less amount of air is given so that complete combustion is not taking place. And during gasification, we get three products. We will get solid product, that will be the char, we will have bio oil, and we will have syngas, which will have methane and carbon monoxide, which will have a high calorific value. And these gases can be used for different processes, like it can be used to produce electricity, or it can be sent to the industries where high calorific value gases are used for generating energy. And the bio oil can further be used as a fuel source, or it can be refined, and other things can be done. And next, it was about pyrolysis. So in pyrolysis, it is a thermochemical process or heating in complete absence of oxygen. So in pyrolysis, something is heated and it is completely sealed so that oxygen cannot go inside that during the combustion process. And the final product we get here is also char, syngas, and bio oil. So, so for pyrolysis, it will be a endothermic reaction because heat will be needed for burning of these waste. But the syngas and the bio oil which is produced during pyrolysis can be reused. It can be used to heat the reactor to perform the pyrolysis process. So depending upon what is the requirement, like during pyrolysis, it is also like fast pyrolysis and slow pyrolysis. The amount of syngas will be generated in pyrolysis will be less as compared to the gasification. So depending upon the requirements, the incineration, gasification, or pyrolysis, out of these three, any method can be used. But generally, for solid waste, incineration is performed in developing countries. But lot of cost is first capital cost is required for installing the facilities, and lot of cost is required for maintaining that, and for maintaining the equipments, and for processing of the pollutants in the flue gas. Then we have discussed about the biological transformation of the waste, in which we have discussed about composting. So composting is a aerobic process in which the waste is degraded by the aerobic microorganisms. These microorganisms eat the organic matter in the waste, and they convert it into compost, and as the byproduct which is generated is carbon dioxide, water, and heat. So for efficient composting, the temperature should reach more than 60% or around 70% in the heap of the waste, so that the pathogens are killed. So pathogens are the microorganisms which do not have the capacity to make spores at high temperature. So that's why when the temperature will increase in the compost, these non-swarm forming pathogens, they will get destroyed, they will get killed. But the good microorganisms which are required and that are non-pathogenic, they will there be in the final compost, and then this compost can be applied in the fields. But the problem can be like there can be contamination in the municipal solid waste. There can be high amount of heavy metals like cadmium, lead, arsenic. So even at very low concentration, these can be problematic, and they can get accumulated in the water bodies, or they can get accumulated in the plants which are growing in that soil. So it is very important to check the the final compost which we are getting for different parameters, like it is checked for some physical parameters like pH, sorry, void ratio, what is will the surface area, and then it is checked for chemical parameters like what is the pH. The pH should be neutral because generally the crops require neutral pH for to grow in the soil. So the pH of the final compost should be near neutral. It should be at around 6.5 to 8.5, and then different concentration of heavy metals and other pollutants are measured, and it should be below the limits which is prescribed by fertilizer control organization in our country. So also one more important test is TCLP, that is a toxicity characteristic leaching procedure. This test tells us that whether a particular compost or any particular material, if it passes the TCLP test, that suppose for cadmium the limit is 1 milligram per liter. So if the compost have leaching of cadmium less than 1 milligram per liter, it means it is non-hazardous and it can be considered as a non-hazardous waste. But if it is more than that, then it will be considered as a hazardous waste. And for hazardous waste, we have different handling rules and handling procedures. So it should be handled according to that. So after composting, we have discussed about another biological process which was anaerobic digestion. So in anaerobic digestion, the solid waste is degraded by anaerobic microorganisms. So, since the microorganisms are inorganic, their yield is very low. So, their growth rate is very low. So, the time required here can be high. Also, since this is a biological process, temperature, moisture content, carbon to nitrogen ratios, these all play a very important role. So also for composting, these will be very important. Like there should be proper moisture, proper carbon to nitrogen ratio, and others for proper efficient composting. So in anaerobic digestion, since these anaerobic microbes are very toxic to oxygen, if there will be oxygen, then these anaerobes will die and aerobic bacteria will take the system, and that will become an aerobic process. But we need the system to be anaerobic so that methane will be produced, which can be used as a for cooking and for other purposes. So anaerobically digesting the solid waste will give us methane, which can be used for generating electricity. It can be used for cooking purposes, or it can be used or it can be sent to industries where it is required. And then after anaerobic digestion, I think that was all. And so this was all like till week 8, we have seen anaerobic digestion, what are its type, what are the various types of reactor and all. And now week 9 is about landfill. After all the processing of the waste, like physical, chemical, and biological processing of the waste, all the valuable products has been taken out. Whatever inert material has been left, that should go to the landfill. Idea should be like this. But since in our country there is lot of loopholes, even though there is after Swachh Bharat mission, there is this separate collection of the wet and dry waste, but that is also not successful. So there is lot of mixed waste that goes to the recycling facilities, and because of this, it is not efficiently removed. Recyclables are not efficiently removed. Not a proper composting of waste takes place. That's why there is large amount of mixed solid waste that is finally sent for disposal at landfill. And since land is a very valuable resource, and also because of the NIMBY syndrome, that not in my backyard, there is lot of dispute for the selection of a particular site for landfill. So we will discuss about what are the landfills, what are its site selection requirements, all. So let me first share my screen. So first, site selection and what are the types of landfill. So first we'll discuss about the solid waste management history in our country. So we have seen that lot of unsegregated waste lies on the land, and there is lot of fire in these areas, especially in the summertime. And it is given that in 1994, large scale flood due to heavy rain and clogged sewer resulted in plague epidemic in Surat. So because of all the plastic and other solid waste, the sewer lines got clogged, and there was lot of heavy rain which resulted in flood in 1994 in Surat. So proper management of solid waste is very, very important. Then, after filing of PIL in 1996, we have the Municipal Solid Waste Management and Handling Rules 2000, which discuss about how the municipal solid waste that is generated, that should be managed and handled, and that should be disposed. So we can see these open dumping. So this is not a landfill. Landfill is something which is designed by engineer. There is some protocol which is followed for disposing the waste in landfill. But these are the open dump sites where we can see there is a lot of burning in this, and there is a lot of unsegregated waste here. So this is very harmful for our environment. It is very harmful for the animals which are exposed to these, and also a lot of pollutants are emitted from these waste which pollute the air, because if anaerobic degradation will be taking place in these heaps, so methane will be produced, and methane is a very having very high capacity of I think it is around 29 to 28% more effect on climate and global warming as compared to CO2 in short term. So methane is uh, a pollutant in that sense. And also methane is very highly combustible. So if the temperature will be high, it will catch fire, and the entire heat dump site will be burning, and eventually it will also contribute to climate change, because a lot of CO2 and other gases will be emitted. And also, apart from this, there can be these dump site will act as a breeding ground for diseases, because there will have lot of insects, mosquitoes. It will attract rats and flies that will eventually cause a lot of diseases. And also, these open sites are not properly covered. So when there will be rainfall, then all the leachate, it will produce lot of leachate. So leachate is the liquid product which comes out from the landfill site. It can come out because of the degradation of the organic matter in the waste, and in this, and during degradation, water is produced. We know that. So this water can also mix with the rainfall, and it will produce large amount of leachate which can pollute the surface and groundwater. And since these are open dump sites, they do not have any protective layer at the bottom, so it will even very easily pollute the groundwater. So rain washes off the contaminants and contaminate the surface water, percolate the soil, and contaminate the soil and groundwater. And also, open dumping decreases the quality of life to nearby residents and the local community. So, this type of scenario where there will be a lot of leachate and there will be a lot of air pollution. So, this is not good for a healthy living for humans and other animals, and eventually it will affect their health. So, the engineer solution for disposal of solid waste is landfill. So landfill are the physical facilities used for the disposal of residual solid waste in the surface of the earth. And landfilling is the process through which these waste is placed in landfill. So here we can see that there is a black cover. So these are the plastic covers which are applied at the bottom of the ground, so that whatever leachate is that is produced during degradation of the waste and also by the rain, these do not percolate at the bottom of the this ground, and they do not pollute the surface and groundwater. And there is proper collection of leachate and the gas which is produced during the degradation, there is proper collection for that, and there is proper treatment for the solid and gases, sorry, liquid and gaseous byproduct which are produced. And landfilling includes monitoring of the incoming waste stream, placement and compaction of the waste, and installation of landfill environmental monitoring and control facilities. So a landfill have proper monitoring of whatever waste is coming into it. There will be proper compaction and placement of the waste. Like cells are created, like cells uh, are called. Suppose this 1 meter cube of waste is dumped in one day. Then these are in a particular this square location. So these are known as cells. So there are proper cells in which there is proper compaction, and also these cells are covered by soil so that they are not exposed to rodents and other flies. And also there is proper monitoring of this landfill for a long, for 15 to 25 years, so that it is checked whether the leachate is leaching in the soil or ground or not, where there is proper collection of the gas or not. So generally there are two types of landfill. First is a sanitary landfill. It is engineered facility for the disposal of municipal solid waste. And next is a secured landfill. It is for disposal of hazardous waste. So we know that during collection of the municipal solid waste, waste is collected in three different bins. One is for the wet, one is for the dry, and one is for the hazardous waste. So these hazardous waste are disposed of in secured landfill, and the dry waste or the inert waste after proper recycling and recovery of the all the materials from the dry waste, that goes to the sanitary landfill. So design of landfill. So the life of any landfill will comprise of active period and closure and post closure period. So the overall design life of the landfill will include all these. An active period generally ranges from 20 to 25 years. And closure and post closure period for which a landfill will be monitored and maintained will be a 15 years or more than more after the active period is completed. So after active period, that is 20 to 25 years is completed for that landfill, then for next 15 years or more than that, proper monitoring of the landfill is done with that, so that we can check whether there is leaching of leachate or the gases which are produced during in the already disposed waste. So here are status of municipal solid waste management in our country is given that out of 29 states, in 18 states there is house-to-house collection of waste and segregation of waste at the source. That at the household level itself, the waste should be segregated and it should be collected as dry and wet waste. It is done only in 5 states. So because of this, since we are not segregating the waste at household, and there is no proper segregation of, because of not proper segregation of the waste, it will affect the collection system. And after the processes like composting, it requires organic waste. So since the waste will be mixed, so it will be very difficult to run those facilities, and eventually large amount of waste will end in landfills, which will eventually cause it will be problematic, as it will produce lot of leachate, lot of harmful gases, and also lot of valuable land will be required to dispose of such huge amount of waste. And we can see that we have around 1,300 unsanitary landfills. These are not engineered landfills. These are just open dump sites where we are just dumping the waste. And we have only 95 numbers of sanitary landfills which have been constructed. So there is first of all requirement of proper segregation of the waste at the source, proper collection of the waste, and then there is requirement of construction of the engineered sanitary landfills for proper disposal of the waste. So there are there are types of the solid waste which are to be accepted at landfill. So waste category suitable for landfill Sanitary landfill are, it should be inert and non-biodegradable, because all the biodegradable waste that should go to the composting facility. And if the waste will have high amount of biodegradable waste, then eventually when it will be kept in the cells in the landfill, then with time oxygen will not be there in the waste, because these are covered, and eventually it will become anaerobic, and there will be anaerobic degradation taking place, and eventually there will be production of lot of methane, and which causes global warming, and also it is highly flammable, so it can catch fire, and entire landfill can catch fire, and it's burned in the summer season. Next is commingled waste, mixed waste not found suitable for waste processing. So, like we have seen in the previous slide, the slide that source segregation of waste is very poor in our country. So, there will be commingled waste that will be collected, and since this waste has a lot of different types of materials, so separation can be very difficult. And these waste, if they are not suitable for any waste processing system, then it will eventually land in the landfills. And the pre-processing and the post-processing rejects from the waste processing side. Whatever the waste which cannot be processed in these facilities, it eventually goes to the landfills for disposal. Next is the non-hazardous waste not being processed or recycled. So whatever non-hazardous waste that has not been processed and that are left, all this goes to the landfill. And for construction and demolition waste, there is separate landfill which is made, so that, and or the construction and demolition waste can be used as a daily cover for road construction at the municipal solid waste sanitary landfill. So these construction and demolition waste, so these can be used as daily cover over the cells in the landfill, or it can be used for road construction. So there are some definitions. So first is the cell. So cell is the volume of material placed in a landfill during one operating period. Usually in one day, whatever volume we put in the landfill, this is known as cell. So here we can see that this much of amount of waste is suppose placed in one day. So it is known as cell. So it will include the waste deposited and the daily cover material surrounding it. So what happens in landfill? We put the waste, compact it, and then we put a cover of soil over this waste, so that it is not exposed to the flies and rats. So waste along with the cover, this will be included in the cell. Next is daily cover. It consists of 6 to 12 inches of native or alternative materials such as compost that are applied to the working faces of the landfill at the end of each operating period. So it controls the blowing of waste material, entry of water, and prevents disease vector from entering the landfill. So around 6 to 12 inch of some alternative material like soil or compost is put over this cell, so that it is not attracted by vectors, and it is also cover the waste. So these, if the waste is plastic and other lighter materials, so it will not be exposed and it will not spread out. So that's why when the operating period of that particular area of the landfill is complete, so daily of that cell is complete, then daily cover is put over it. Next is lift, complete layer of cells over the active area of the landfill. This is known as lift. Next is bench or terrace. So here we can see the complete height is known as lift, and bench or terrace is the used when height of landfill exceeds 50 to 75 feet. It maintains slope stability of the landfill placement of surface water drainage channel and of the landfill gas recovery pipe. So these terrace support uh, the surface drainage channels and the gas recovery pipeline. Next is the final lift. It includes the cover layer, the final cover layer. So this, suppose this is the final cell. So the final cover layer over the cell will be known as the final lift. Next, so the cover over this final cell will be the final cover layer, which is applied at the topmost cell of the landfill. And leachate is the liquid collected at the bottom of the landfill because of the degradation of the waste. Next is landfill gas. Because of the anaerobic degradation, methane and CO2 will be produced because of degradation by anaerobic microorganisms. And these landfill gases are collected through the gas collection system in the landfills. And there are landfill liners. Before disposing the waste, proper sealing of that ground is done so that leachate produce does not percolate through the soil and does not go and pollute the surface and ground. So materials used to line the bottom area and below grade sides of a landfill, they usually consist of a layer of compacted clay or geomembrane materials designed to prevent migration of leachate and landfill gas. So geomembranes and clays are used to seal these areas so that the leachate that is produced and the landfill gases does not escape from this landfill. So there are three methods of landfilling. First is the excavated cell or trench method. Next is the area method, and third is the cannon or depression method. So in excavated trench method, so it is used in places where groundwater table is not near the surface. So in the areas where the groundwater will be much lower than the groundwater table will be much lower than the ground surface level. So it will be used in those areas because holes are trenches are dug, like we can see this is one trench which will be dug, and then solid waste will be disposed of, and eventually when it will come to the surface level, then it will be sealed and covered. So these trenches are generally 200 to 1000 feet long and 3 to 10 feet high, deep, and 15 to 50 feet wide. So in these trenches, the solid waste are placed in the trenches and the soil excavated from the side. These are used for daily and final cover. Next is the area method. So this is is suitable where the groundwater table is very near to the ground surface. So in those areas we cannot dig and make landfills because groundwater will will fill the dug trenches. So we use the area method. So since there is no excavation done, so for final cover and daily cover, material soil from the nearby areas can be used. Next is the cannon method or the depression method. So it is generally used in hilly areas. So cannons, ravines, dry borrow pits, and quarries can be used as landfills. So wherever there will be depressions or holes, that can be used for that can be used as landfill sites. So compacted solid waste are placed in these cannon and depression, and cover material can be either excavated from the cannon walls or hauled in from a different location. So these are the landfill siting consideration which have been taken from the Municipal Solid Waste Management Manual 2016. So the haul distance should not be very high. It should be the close to generation, and if the landfill site should be 20 kilometers away from airport, 200 meters away from highways, and 500 meters from habitation, that is it should be away from the residential area, 300 meters from the public parks, and 500 meters from water supply well, and 200 meters from pond, and 100 meters from rivers. So these considerations are should be taken considered before finalizing the location of landfill. And that landfill available land area should be at least for 20 to 25 years. That land should be available for disposing of the waste. There should be proper access to that site through road and rail so that waste can be hauled to that area for composting. And there should be soils, if used as cover material, should not have low porosity. The topography decide the extent of work required to make the site suitable. So there should not be very the land should not be like that. In some areas it is flat and in some areas it has hill and then again it has depression. It should not be like that. So because if that will be, if there will be a lot of ups and downs in the land, then a lot of excavation and leveling will be required. So the land should be like that, that the uh, uh, overall time and money required to make the landfill should be minimum, and also the soil should have low porosity. So if the porosity will be low, then leachate or water will not percolate very easily, rather. And if porosity will be high, then leachate will or water will percolate very fast, and it can go and pollute the groundwater. Climate conditions should be considered, like whether what is the rainfall pattern, for how much duration of the year the rainfall takes place in that area or not. And surface water hydrology, it is very important to establish the existing natural drainage or runoff system. So based on that, it should not be like that the that landfill in is in that area where the rainfall runoff passes through, so that it will take away all the waste. So all these considerations should be taking place. And also geologic and hydrogeologic conditions should be seen, that the what is the level of the groundwater, and so what is the level of the various aquifers in the ground, that should be considered. The local environmental conditions should be considered, and potential ultimate use of the complete site. All these considerations should be taken into before deciding the site for the landfill. So for site selection, location criteria is first, then search area, development of list of potential sites, data collection for potential sites, field visit for local verification and identification of potential site, then selection of best rank site, and finally preliminary environmental impact investigation is done, and out of all these, final site selection is done. So this is the overall procedure for site selection. So here some criteria is given for identifying suitable land for sanitary landfill sites. So it is based on the Municipal Solid Waste Manual 2016. Like for rivers, it should be 100 meter away from the floodplain, 200 meter from water bodies like ponds and lakes, 30 meter from the water channels like canal and drainage, 500 meter from the highways, and all the landfill facilities should be 500 meter away from the habitable areas, 500 meter from the fault line fracture, and the landfill should not be located in a flood prone area, and the bottom line of the landfill should be above at least 2 meter from the highest water table. So there should be at least gap of 2 meter between the groundwater table and the bottom line of the landfill. And finally, it should be at least 20 kilometers from the airport. So these are some given, like it should be 20 kilometers from airport, 500 meters from habitable area, 500 meters from highways, and 200 meters from ponds, lakes, and other water bodies. So after location criteria, we will discuss about search area. So the landfill sites should ideally be located within the municipal boundary, and the extent of search area is usually governed by the economics of waste transportation. And then the development of list of potential sites is done. And next, data collection for potential sites is done based on using the following data are collected. So soil map, land use pattern, water use pattern, all these are data are collected for all the potential sites. And field visit is done to see the topography and other conditions of that sites. And out of all the potential sites, best rank site is selected, and some preliminary environmental impact investigation is done on the best selected 2 to 3 sites, and after this the final site is selected, and the final selection of site amongst the best rank alternatives should be done by comparing the environmental impact, social acceptance, land availability, transportation cost, and sanitary landfill cost. So all this should be considered to select the best rank alternative out of the 2 to 3 available landfill sites. And then the line after selection of the site, landfill site preparation starts, like drainage away the there should be proper drainage that should be made, and excavation is done, and replacement of monitoring equipments. Monitoring should be done for at least 20 to 25 years after site closure. So in monitoring, groundwater quality monitoring is done to see whether there is a contaminant in the groundwater. So in groundwater quality monitoring, what happens? The groundwater from on the upstream side of the aquifer of the landfill is taken. Suppose landfill is at a particular site, then the groundwater from the upstream side of the landfill is taken, and the groundwater from the downstream side of the landfill is taken, and then the qualities or parameters of these landfill are compared to see whether there is contamination from that landfill in the groundwater. And next is the air quality. So proper collection and treatment of the methane and CO2 in the gas which is produced during the degradation is done. So this was all about the first lecture. So there are two lecture in the week 9 modules. So week second lecture is about leachate collection and treatment, and in the next week we will see about landfill gas collection and treatment. So the two most common problems with landfill are, first is the landfill gases, which will consist of CO2 and methane, and both of these two gases have greenhouse effect. And the next one is the leachate, which is the water which is produced during the anaerobic degradation. So organic materials such as wet waste, that is the vegetable, kitchen, yard waste, are usually compacted when they are put into the landfill. So the problem is that this removes oxygen and causes that material breakdown anaerobically. So when the waste is compacted, so the voids or gaps between the waste that get reduced, and eventually enough oxygen is not present, and during compaction voids are getting smaller. So these oxygen gets removed from those voids, and because of that the overall waste starts degrading anaerobically, and with time there is a production of leachate and methane gas, and methane gas has nearly 20 more times more potent than carbon dioxide. So in short term, if we see, then methane is has higher potential than carbon dioxide, and if we see for long term of greenhouse gas effect, then CO2 will have higher potential for greenhouse gas effect. So the reactions which takes place during landfill are anaerobic, because anaerobic degradation is taking place. So we have seen in the last week about anaerobic degradation that the first step is the hydrolysis, and then it is fermentation, where different types of acids are produced, and finally acetate is produced, and these acetates by methanogenic bacteria are converted into methane. So different phases of landfill gas and leachate are given. So in the first phase, it will be like any particular biological reaction. Like it will have a lag phase or acclimatization phase, where the microbes get adapt to that environment, and slowly in the phase 3, which is the active phase, COD will be maximum. So this COD will be maximum in the leachate, and then with time this will methane and other gas production, and eventually the leachate production will leachate not COD and other production will decrease. So the factors which influence the leachate generation are what leachate will be produced or not, that will depend upon the age of the landfill. So if a landfill is very new, then the leachate or gas production will be less, but with time the leachate and gas production will increase, and if the landfill becomes very old, then slowly the leachate and landfill production will decrease. And leachate production will also depend upon the type of waste which is being disposed in or dumped in that landfill, whether that is high in organic matter or low in organic matter. So if it is high in biodegradable organic matter, then then it will degrade that organic matter and produce lot of leachate, as compared to a landfill which do not have that much high amount of biodegradable organic matter. Next is the environmental conditions. So since for proper degradation of these waste, proper amount of moisture contained and proper temperature in the mesophilic to thermophilic range will be required by the microbes. So whether there is that particular conditions available in that area, it will also affect the leachate production. And the factors which influence the generation of leachate, it will be the infiltration of groundwater, whether the groundwater is getting infiltrated in that landfill or not. If it is getting infiltrated, then leachate production will be more. Next is the infiltration of leachate into the ground or potential pollution of groundwater. So there can be chances that these leachate are getting infiltrated in the ground and it is polluting that particular aquifer or the groundwater. Next can be the rainfall or precipitation. So if there will be land rainfall, then these rainfall will fall on the waste and there will be a lot of production of the leachate. Even though it will be diluted, the concentration of the toxic pollutants will be diluted, but still the volume to be managed will increase. Next is the water from the deposited waste mainly due to the biodegradation process. So like during the anaerobic degradation, water is one of the byproducts. So all these factors will lead to the generation of the leachate. So here a flow for leachate is given like there can be rainfall or precipitation that will infiltrate into the landfill site, or there can be groundwater coming or infiltrating in the landfill site, or there can be leachate which is generating, which is getting infiltrated into the through the soil into the groundwater. So all these will produce leachate because the volume of the leachate will increase because the groundwater getting mixed into this water which is already produced by degradation. So volume will increase. With precipitation, again volume will increase. If it is going into the groundwater, again the whole groundwater in that area will get polluted, and also it all these will contribute to the leachate. So there are some factors which influence the leachate quality. First is the refuse composition. What will be the composition of the waste that is disposed of, whether it is biodegradable or not. If it is degradable, then leachate production will be more. Next is the elapsed time. So if the landfill is closed in recent years, then the leachate production will be less. But with time, the leachate production will increase. Next is the ambient temperature. What is the temperature? What is the moisture content? Because moisture content is very important for the biological degradation to takes place. Next is the precipitation. So the amount of rain falling on landfill influence the leachate quantity significantly. How much amount of leachate will be produced? If there is lot of rain, then how high amount of leachate will be produced? And also if there will be rain, then the leachate will be diluted. And if there will be no rain, then very concentrated or highly concentrated leachate will be produced. Next is groundwater intrusion. Sometimes landfill-based construction below the groundwater table may increase quantity of the leachate that will be produced because groundwater is getting inside the landfill. Next is the moisture content of the weight. Leachate quantity will increase because of own self weight. The waste releases more water than squeeze. So if the moisture content of the waste that is disposed is very high, then that will also lead to leachate generation because with since the waste is dumped in different layers of cells. So because of that weight, the waters in the pores will get squeezed out and then they will contribute to the leachate. So then estimation of the leachate quantity can be done using following calculation. So first is a pre-closure generation rate. So it can be can be done using this formula. Then we can find out the closure generation rate by using different methods like water balance, empirical equation, computer modeling, mathematical modeling, and others. So water balance method is given, and so please go through these equations in the lecture. Next is the typical characteristics of the municipal solid waste leachate which is produced. So we can see that pH can be acidic, it ranges from acidic to alkaline pH. Electrical conductivity can be low to very high. BOD can be very high, COD can be very high, and the concentration of metals can be also very high. So ammonia can be not detected to 1200 milligrams per liter. So these are very high. So these are overall range for different metals and other in the leachate. So there are proper leachate collection system in the engineered landfill, which consists of main drain, side drains, perimeter drain and protective layer, leachate walls typically with pumps. So leachate wells typically with pumps. So all the leachate that is generated, that will be collected and sent to wells, and from these wells, these are pumped to and sent to the wastewater treatment facilities, or there can be treatment facilities in the that near that landfill also, where these leachate are treated. So the problem with leachate is that it clogs up or clogs up with silt or mud and growth of microorganisms in the pipe. It can clog the pipe. So chemical reaction leading to precipitation of the minerals in the pipe. So there is lot of uh, uh, metals and others in the leachate. So there can be chemical reaction which takes place, and there can be precipitation of some minerals, and it can also clog the pipe. And because of the chemical attack like acid, solvents, and oxidizing agent, the pipe can become weak with time. So the role of different leachate collection system components are discussed. First is the barrier layer, a very low permeable synthetic or natural soil liner to restrict and control the rate of vertical downward flow of liquid. So first a barrier layer is made so that uh, it restricts the vertical flow of the liquid. Next is the drainage layer, which consists of drain pipes which collect the leachate, and there is some slope at least of 2% is required for collection of these leachate. And then French tiles and drains are there. Then also these are used for the leachate which is collected. And next is the filter layer. So these are used to reduce the migration of fines or sand or silt into the drainage layer. And next is the fine soil or refuse. These are the thick layers. They act as cushion the engineered system against damage and act as a filter. So here a leachate collection system is shown, where these are the collection pipes, and this is the soil which is used to soil which have low permeability, which is used to as a barrier layer, which prevents the leachate to getting below the soil. So again here a overall outline of leachate collection system is shown. So first there will be a low permeability barrier. Then these are the drainage tiles which collect the water or leachate produced, and they get finally collected into the main drain, from where it is sent to the wells for, and from wells it is pumped for treatment. So the various leachate discharge pathways are given. So the leachate can seep through the sides. It can leach to the ground, and there can be some seepage from the uh, at the ground level. So all these shows the leachate discharge pathways. So these are some of the figures which shows the leachate collection system with graded terraces. So the different components of leachate collection system are shown, where the permeability of the drainage layer at least 10 raised to minus 2 is desirable. So again, it is for clean out system. Then this is shown for storm water management in area type landfill, because because they are surface plain lands, and the height of landfill is high in these, so proper storm water management is required. Next is the leachate ponds or lagoons. So here we start with the treatment of the leachate which is collected. So lined leachate ponds or lagoons are commonly used at landfill sites. So ponds are made which are lined with the non-permeable membranes. So in these ponds, some aerators can be installed so that these waste are easily degraded by the aerobic microbes. So there can be leachate correct storage tanks. So these can be the huge tanks in which leachate can be stored and then can be sent for treatment. And the best way to control leachate in landfill are strict storm water and runoff water, proper segregation of wet and dry waste, and aerobic landfill technology. So there should be proper segregation of the waste, and there should be proper management of the storm water and runoff water which is produced while during precipitation. And there should be aerobic landfill technology should be used so that leachate generation is less. And to restrict the storm and runoff water, proper liner system should be there. So after the end of the landfill site, there should be proper lining above that landfill so that with the non-permeable soil so that rainwater does not go inside the disposed waste. And also sorting the organic waste like food and vegetables and dry waste and sending the organic waste for composting. This will also lead to lesser generation of the leachate. So then some design of landfill liners are used. So liner is used as a control for leachate so that these liners are spread on the land so that the leachate does not go inside the and go and percolate to the groundwater. So geotextile can be used. There can be geonet, geomembranes, or clay. So all these liners can be used for controlling the leachate to not flow to the groundwater. And next we'll discuss about leachate treatment. So we'll discuss about the physicochemical processes and the biological process. So the first physicochemical process is the reverse osmosis. So in reverse osmosis, so there is a membrane and high pressure is applied so that only water goes through these membranes and all the pollutants are retained on one side and only the clean water passes through the membrane, and in this way these leaches are treated. But here it is written that biological pretreatment is necessary. Uh, there can be some that biological treatment is first and followed by the reverse osmosis. And in many cases, the separation of ammonium is poor, which could be improved by chemical addition to adjust pH or by a two-step reverse osmosis. So we can add chemicals to increase the pH so that at higher pH the ammonium ion converts to ammonia gas and it can escape out, or we can use a two-step reverse osmosis. Next is the flocculation of precipitation. So it is mainly done to reduce the organic load, that is humic acid, halogenated organic constituents characterized by parameters COD of the leachate after the biological treatment. In spite of being cheap, this technology is not used frequently because of addition of chloride and sulfate into the leachate effluent. So we can use some type of flocculants which flocks these organic compounds and finally settles at the bottom of the tank. But since we are adding chemicals and generally these are chloride or sulfate salts, so they add the concentration of chloride and sulfate into the leachate effluent. So that's why this is not generally used. Next is evaporation and drying. So these techniques are a separation in a clean waste stream and a solid phase which includes all pollution material. So the water can evaporate out and we will get slurry type materials. So the predominant component in effluent of evaporation plants are volatile, sometimes chlorinated organic and ammonium with the necessity of additional treatment step. So the effluent of evaporation, these waste, finally the waste which is left, it has very high concentration of organics and ammonia, and these need further treatment. So then the aerobic biological treatments are aerated lagoons. So these leachate, they can be kept in shallow ponds, and then these ponds can be aerated, and through aeration, aerobic microbes can degrade the organic material present in the leachate. Next is the activated sludge system. So activated sludge is mainly used for the treatment of municipal sewage. So in this, again, there is a sludge which have aerobic microbes, and aerators are installed into the aeration tank, and with that, with the supply of oxygen, these aerobic microbes take the organic uh, organic carbon from the leachate, and it will reduce the COD and BOD of the final leachate effluent. And generally, in activated sludge system, there is a aeration tank where takes place, and there is a settling tank where after aeration, the mixed sludge and the waste water is sent for settling, and so the sludge settles at the bottom, and the clean water or the treated water is taken from the top. So next is the RBC, that is the rotating biological contractors. So, so we can see in this figure. So these are the rotating contractors which have these sheets where the microbes grow, and when these rotate, it comes in contact with the leachate, and these microbes then degrade the organic carbon or organic matter in the waste. Other can be trickling filters. So in trickling filters, waste are the leachate can be sprayed from the nozzles at the top of the reactor, and from when these are fed from the top of the nozzles, it comes in contact with the air, and through this oxygen goes into the leachate drops, and the microbes, aerobic microbes, they eat these organic carbon and reduces the organic load in the leachate. So next we is some are the biological anaerobic biological treatment, which consists of upflow anaerobic filters, or it can be UASP, which is the upflow anaerobic sludge blanket reactors. So these anaerobic methods can also be used to treat the leachate. So here are integrated treatment system for leachate is shown. So the aspects for leachate treatment plant is, first is the limiting concentration, low demand of resources, low demand of energy, low generation of residue, and low environmental impact, and finally economical efficient operation. So all these aspects are needed to be seen for making any leachate treatment plant. So there are some advanced leachate treatment technology like moving bed biofilm reactors. So here a figure is shown. So here microbes along with so there are some sort of beds are used where on which the microbes grow, and the leachate is flown through these beds, so that microbes come in contact with the organic carbon, and they start the degradation. So, and finally, we get the treated leachate. So, the advantage of this are that there is high concentration of biomass, but there is no sludge production. So, settling time is less, and they are less sensitive to toxic substances, and they can remove higher organic matter as compared to the other conventional treatment methods. So, next we can use membrane bioreactors. So, it is a combination of biological and physical process. So here we can have a nitrification, denitrification process can also be there in the membrane bioreactor. So there can be nitrification process taking place if we increase the sludge retention time. So these will lead to the growth of nitrifying bacteria, that it will oxidize the ammonia to nitrate, and then denitrifying system can be installed, which will reduce the nitrate to nitrogen gas. So here a figure for the membrane bioreactors are given. So on these membranes, the microbes grow, and they degrade the organic carbon in the waste. So some current practices which are used in landfill technology are, like, we can have three types of bioreactor landfills, which can be aerobic, anaerobic, or mixed type. So a bioreactor landfill operates to rapidly transform and degrade organic waste. So the increase in waste degradation and stabilization through liquid addition and air or enhance microbial process. So since in the landfill itself we are making it as a bioreactor. So where there will be microbes and these microbes will degrade the organic matter in the landfill, and depending on the process whether it is aerobic or anaerobic, there will be proper collection of the leachate and the gas, and that gas and leachate can be used for different processes. So the first is the aerobic bioreactor. So leachate is removed from the bottom and recirculated in the landfill in a controlled manner. So since they are now bioreactors, so proper moisture should be maintained. So the leachate that is produced, that is collected and that is supplied or recirculated in the landfill in a proper controlled manner to maintain the optimum moisture for biodegradation. And also air is injected since it is aerobic, so oxygen will be required by the microbes. So there is proper air injection in the overall landfill. But since we are injecting the air, so air diffusers, compressor, all this will be required. Energy will be required. Next can be the anaerobic bioreactor landfill. So in this, moisture is added to the waste mass in the form of recirculated leachate. Here also leachate is collected and it is recirculated to maintain the moisture contained. And here, since it is anaerobic, biodegradation takes place in absence of oxygen, and these produces landfill gas, which is mainly methane, and it can be captured to minimize greenhouse gas emissions and can be used for energy projects. Next is the hybrid, that is the combination of aerobic and anaerobic. So there can be aerobic biodegradation taking place at the topper layers and anaerobic biodegradation taking place at the bottom layers. So by combining aerobic and anaerobic biodegradation, these can be the hybrid landfills. So there are some unique features of the bioreactor landfill. So, like, since it is a bioreactor, a minimum leachate is injected into the bioreactors to simulate the natural biodegradation process. So, if there will be lesser moisture content, then the microbes will not work efficiently. So minimum leachate is injected in these bioreactors for the biodegradation process to take place. Bioreactors often need other liquids such as stormwater, wastewater, and wastewater treatment plant sludge to supplement leachate, because water and wastewater will be needed for maintaining the moisture content, and sludge has a lot of microbes, so these microbes can enhance the degradation. Next, moisture content is the single most important factor that promotes the accelerated decomposition, and nearly 35 to 60% optimum moisture content should be maintained for the biodegradation process to take place. So the effect of the bioreactor is that it produces landfill gas like methane is in an anaerobic unit at an earlier stage in the landfill lives at an overall much higher rate of generation than traditional landfill. So the amount of methane that will be produced in a bioreactor landfill, this is much higher as compared to the traditional landfill, and these methane gas can be trapped and it can be used for different purposes. So this was the for the week 9. It was having 2 lectures based on landfill. So now let's go to the question. I hope till now everything was clear to all. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me. And now, otherwise, we can directly go to the questions. So let me first share my screen. So the first question is, there the two types of landfill are A, sanitary landfill, B, open dumping, or C, secured landfill. So like usual, I will give you 2 to 3 minutes. Just take your time and write your option in the chat box, and then we will see which one is the correct. So the two types of landfill. So the two types of landfill are sanitary landfill and secured landfill. Open dumping is not a type of landfill. So sanitary landfill is used for disposing of municipal solid waste, and secured landfill are used for disposing of hazardous waste. So let's move to the next question. So the next question is, what type of waste are not suitable for sanitary landfill? A, biodegradable waste, B, inert waste, C, recyclable waste, or D, all of the above. So again, I will give you all 3 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box, and then we will discuss. So the type of waste which are not suitable for sanitary landfill are biodegradable waste. So since if there will be high biodegradable waste, then the biodegradation rate will be very high because of a higher organic carbon content, and there will be lot of leachate production and lot of methane gas production. So these biodegradable waste, they should be composted, or they should be anaerobically digested. Next is inert waste. So inert waste, these cannot be processed to recycle, so they are sent for sanitary landfills. And next is the recyclable waste. So the recyclable waste should be recycled and reused. So the question is, what type of landfill is used for disposal of hazardous waste? A. Sanitary landfill. B. Open dumping. C. Secured landfill. Or D. All of the above. So again, I will give you 3 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box. So sanitary landfills are used for disposal of municipal solid waste, and secured landfill are used for disposal of hazardous waste. So C is the correct answer. That secured landfill are used for disposal of hazardous waste. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, volume of materials placed in a landfill during one operating period, usually one day, is called A. Cell, B. Lift, C. Bench, or D. None of the above. So again, I will give you 3 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat. So the volume of materials placed in a landfill during one operating period is called as cell. So A is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, the principal methods used for the landfilling of municipal solid waste are A. Excavated cell or trench method, B. Area method, C. Cannon or depression method, or D. All of the above. So again, I will give you all 2 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box, and then we will discuss which one is the correct. Method is used where the groundwater table is much below the ground level. Area method is used where the groundwater table is very close or very near to the ground surface or ground level, and cannon or depression method is used in hilly areas where the solid waste is landfill in depressions or the or ditches in the hills. So D is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, the final selection of the site from amongst the best ranked alternatives for landfill should be done by comparing A. Environmental impact, B. Social acceptance, C. Land availability, D. Transportation cost, or E. Sanitary landfill cost. So for finalizing the a particular site from the best ranked alternative sites for landfill, which of the following uh, uh, or which of the following are compared? So again, I will give you 3 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box, and then we will discuss. Aspects are compared among the best ranked alternative sites like environmental impact, social acceptance, land availability, transportation cost, and sanitary landfilling cost. All these are considered and all these are compared between the best ranked alternative for landfill site. So all five will be the correct answer. So let's move to the next next question. The question is the bottom liner of the landfill should be above dash from the highest water table. A 2 meter, B 5 meters, C 10 meter or D 15 meter. So we have to find out what should be the minimum height between the bottom liner of the landfill and the water table, that is the groundwater table. So I'll give you all 2 minutes. Just take your time, write the option in the chat box and then we will discuss. So the correct answer is 2 meter. The bottom liner of the landfill should be at least 2 meter from the highest water table. So A is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. The question is the factors which influence the generation of leachate are A. Infiltration of groundwater, B. Infiltration of leachate into the ground, C. Rainfall or D. Water from the deposited waste mainly due to biodegradation process. So we have to tell which of the following factors influence the generation of leachate. So again, I'll give you 2 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box. So all the following options influence the generation of leachate, like infiltration of groundwater. If groundwater will be infiltrating into the landfill, then it will increase the leachate volume. If leachate will infiltrate into the groundwater, it will again pollute the groundwater. If there will be rainfall, then again it will mix with leachate and the volume will increase. And water from the deposited waste due to biodegradation process, that will also influence the generation of leachates. All four are correct. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, what is the role of barrier layer in leachate collection system? A, to restrict and control the rate of vertical downward flow of liquid. B, to laterally drain the liquid to the collector drain pipes. C, to reduce the potential for migration of fines into drainage layer. Or D, all of the above. So again, I will give you 2 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box. So the role of barrier layer in leachate collection system is to restrict and control the rate of vertical downward flow of liquid. So whatever leachate that will be produced, so these barrier layers will restrict that liquid to flow vertically in the downward direction. So barrier is used for that. So A is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, how much bottom final slope after long-term settling is required for leachate collection? A 2%, B 1%, C 5%, or D 10%. So again, I'll give you all 2 minutes. Just take your time and write the option on the chat box. So minimum 2% bottom slope should be there for proper leachate collection. So A is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, what are the physico-chemical processes for leachate treatment? A. Reverse osmosis. B. Flocculation or precipitation. C. Evaporation and drying. Or D. All of the above. So again, I'll give you 2 minutes. Just take your time and write the option in the chat box, and then we will discuss. So reverse osmosis, flocculation or precipitation, evaporation and drying, all these three are the physico-chemical processes which are used for leachate treatment. So D will be the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, what are the biological processes for leachate treatment? A. Aerated lagoon. B. Activated sludge system. C. Rotating biological contractors. And D. Trickling filter. So again, I'll give you 2 minutes. Please write your option in the chat box, and then we will discuss. So all four are the correct option. Aerated lagoon, activated sludge system, RPC, and trickling filters. All four are the biological process which can be used for leachate treatment. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, what are the anaerobic biological processes for leachate treatment? A, USP, that is upflow anaerobic sludge blanket reactor. B, activated sludge system. C, rotating biological contractors. Or D, trickling filter. So again, please write the option in the chat box and then we will discuss. So the anaerobic biological process which are used for leachate treatment is A, an upflow anaerobic sludge blanket reactor. So this is the anaerobic biological process used for leachate treatment. B, C, and D, that is the activated sludge system, rotating biological contractor, and trickling filter. All these three are the aerobic biological process. So A will be the correct answer. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, what are the types of bioreactor landfill? A, aerobic, B, anaerobic, or C, hybrid bioreactor landfills, or D, all of the above. So again, we will discuss in 2 minutes. So the types of bioreactor landfill are aerobic, anaerobic, or it can be combination of both. That is hybrid bioreactor landfill. So D is the correct answer. That all of the above are the types of bioreactor landfill. So let's move to the last question. So the question is, what are the unique features of bioreactor landfill? If it is that it produces landfill gas like methane. C, at a minimum leachate is injected in the bioreactor to simulate the natural biodegradation process, or C, both A and B. So again, we will discuss in 2 minutes which of the following are the correct answer. So the unique features of bioreactor landfill are that it obviously will produce methane, and decirculation of leachate is done into the bioreactor to simulate the natural biodegradation process. Because for biodegradation, some minimum moisture content is required for the microbes to degrade the organic matter. So both A and B are the correct answer. So C will be the correct answer. So these were the questions based on week 9 material. So I hope that all the content on all the questions which I have discussed is clear to all. So we will meet on next Saturday and discuss about week 10 lecture material. So we will meet on next Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. So thank you so much for joining. Have a nice day.